It is Dave from Amplify talking to the magnificent Richie Lewis from Tumbleweed. And he started off magnificent, but he's if you've watched him, he's always magnificent. And they're
Well,
always doing a whole range of things. And we're going to talk today about something he's doing that's not Tumbleweed, but we'll talk about Tumbleweed as well, obviously.
okay.
So, how did the band, Tumbleweed, how did the band come together 35 years ago?
Yeah,
God, in
ridiculous.
Wollongong.
Yeah. Well, as legend has it, we sort of like spawned from proton energy pills. Like basically, me, Lenny, and Jay left the proton energy pills to start Tumbleweed as a three-piece, and then we got Paul and Steve in that were in the Unheard, which were a local Wollongong band back in those days, and Tumbleweed was born.
And Tumbleweed was born, and so you've been going 35 years, but you took 8, 10 years off somewhere in the middle there,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
from
you,
about the year
2000.
2000 to 2010. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, 2010. But you predominantly, who was I talking to the other day? I was talking to, I think it was, no, I think it was Earthless or Suicidal Tendencies or something. And they basically kept the same three people for the whole 30 or 40 years. It's just
yeah.
unbelievable. And you've done pretty much the same. You haven't had a lot of people come in and out. You've predominantly,
When during our popular period, we went through this weird time where we sort of the last two albums shuffled through members pretty quickly. But after that break, um, the reason why we got back together is we wanted to get the original lineup back together. So we did that, and we got Steve and Paul back in, Jay, Lenny, and myself, and then we carried on doing that until Jay passed away in
yeah, which is really,
2014.
really sad.
And then since then we've had Jamie Cleaves on bass, who is Jay's best mate, and he's been in the band a long time now, and he's the only one that isn't an original member.
Okay, so because we're doing this interview and it's usually pretty quick, in 25 words or less, give us the last 35 years. Not quite, but yeah, you did three or four albums, I think, up until 2000, and you
Yeah,
basically then waited until 2023 to bring out the next one. And I'm just wondering, were you touring a lot? Were you just not? Were you back and forth? How come you didn't
yeah,
release an album for so long?
okay. Really quickly, we did like a whole bunch of EPs. First up, Weed Seed and Theory of Gnomes. They went gangbusters. Then the first album came out. That was the big American one that we did with Atlantic Records. Second
Massive.
one, second album, Galactophonic, came out about 95. Then Return to Earth came out. That's the one with Silver Lizard on it. And then the last album of that sort of period was Mumbo Jumbo, which was pretty much just me and Lenny with a different band. Al Lynch from Fridge was in the band.
Yep.
Um, and then we took our 10-year break. Then we came back in 2010 for the Home Bake Festival 15-year anniversary because we sort of started that thing back in the day. So that would be a nostalgic thing, tie a circle on that. But we loved it so much we kept going. We recorded another album called Sounds from the Other Side, which came out in 2013.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And we toured nationally with that. After that tour, that's when Jay died. Then we continued just to sort of like play sporadically shows here and there. We've recorded a couple of singles since with Rob Younger. We did one called Shadowland and another one called Patchouli Girl. Both of those singles are out as 7-inch vinyl thingies. And we put out a best of album called Killer Weed, and that was last year, I think. Yeah, so that's sort of in a nutshell the release stuff.
That's as lucid a 25 word or less commentary I've ever had. So obviously drugs and alcohol didn't get to you as much as it got to everybody else, obviously.
I don't know. There's like they're the points in the road, they're the little markers. So
No, they are, they are, they are. How would you describe your sound?
the tumbleweed sound. I think it started off like kind of wild and cool. Like it had like lots of fuzz and wah wah, And I think what we did was we come from a lineage of Australian. Well, really, I suppose like start with like Stooges and like punk rock of that ilk, um, and then we've discovered Black Sabbath, and but we also loved stuff like Celibate Rifles and a lot of Australian punk rock. So once we sort of like formed our foundation of that sort of guitar sound, then we slowed everything down and realized it was heavier. So I think that sort of became our sound with a little bit of melody on top.
Okay. So, is there new music on the drawing board, or is it more, when you get around to it, sort of thing? It's not
Yeah,
a.
well, when we went and recorded the last single with Rob Younger, we recorded another 6 songs. The boys are working on that at the moment. Basically, they'll finish that off, and then I'm gonna just like then I'll put the vocals on it. But I'd like to go in and like just do another session where we're actually where we're actually writing together, we're jamming together,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Rather than sort of like, okay, let's record these parts that we've got and build it. I think there's something sort of more immediate or something more authentic and just sort of you get this special magic if it's just sort of being worked on collectively at the same time, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. And so 26, we might see something, hit.
Yeah, that's the aim. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you're currently in between some dates for what we're talking about today, which is celebrating Neil Young. What's that all about? So you've got 4 dates for that, I think. You've done two, you've got two to do. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, that came about. A mate of mine, Paul McDonald, is the guitarist and the sort of the musical director, if you will, of the band. He gave me a call in summer and said, "This is something you'd be interested in." I've always been a fan of Neil Young since since I was like a
Who
young
hasn't? Who
like young
hasn't?
20-year-old driving my combi up the Pacific
Yeah,
Highway up to the North Coast with my long hair flowing and my beads flying out the window.
yeah.
And listening to Harvest on my tape player, and so yeah, I like yeah, I always sort of get taken back to that little moment. I've always been a big fan of him. So when he asked me, I thought, oh, it's not. This isn't something I've ever really done before. I better give it a go and see what whether I can pull it off. And so I gave him like 24 hours to before I gave him an answer. I went, yeah, I'll give it a go. Now it's ended up sort of like surpassing my expectations. Right, I sort of like took it on as something just to learn something different and to actually play with some different people and get like some
Did you know all those people were there when you took it on, or did he assemble? Because you're playing with some great people. Let's face it. They're Australian icons. Did you know that they were playing when you took it on?
not initially, no. Um, but that got better. I mean, like, I sort of knew Jeff Martin was going to be involved. He was involved from the very beginning. I think Paul and Jeff had conversations years ago about doing it, and it sort of made sense for Jeff too, being Canadian and having that Canadian connection. That's really beautiful. So I really wanted to work with Jeff. But Shane coming on board was another fantastic thing.
Yeah.
And what an amazing band! Like it's a 6-piece band, and all of them are wonderful people, but amazing players. So it's really, yeah, it's been a great lesson in learning to sort of like sit back, let the ensemble do like be a part of it rather than sort of like take over it. I think my modus operandi in Tumbleweed is just go for it and just be as physical as possible and just like lose myself in the moment. This was a good learning thing and just sort of sitting back a bit, and just delivering the songs. I was like thinking, okay, I can't sing like Neil Young. He's like up here, right?
Yeah.
I've got to deliver the words. I've got to tell the stories in the
Yeah.
same way that he
Yeah.
intended them to be told. And there's stories about heroes of the everyday man, the everyday person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
But you're probably also at a conscious stage in your life where you're not in pursuit of some greatness. You're trying to be more authentic and
yeah,
more, true to whatever it is that you're doing in the moment. And so you'll play to 10 people now, I would think, the same as you play to 1,000, whereas before you might be, waiting for the big crowd or something like that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
Would that be right?
yeah. I think that's emotional maturity. You
I
know.
think, I think, well, whatever you want to call it, it's
Yeah,
getting
no, I
older.
wouldn't call it that. Yeah, I do find myself that's more important to me now. Definitely authenticity and sort of, yeah, for sure.
Had you
And
played with the guys before? You obviously knew them because you probably run into them.
I only knew Paul through. I mean, most of them are in a band called Gin Palace, and
Yeah.
we did that tour, the Spring Loaded tour, and I met them at the Wollongong Spring Loaded. We went out afterwards, had a bunch of drinks and stuff. This is how this thing came about, and yeah, just got on really well with them. I think I was standing on the street with Paul singing songs out on the street, right?
Fantastic.
So he goes,
People didn't
okay,
know. People didn't know.
I'll
Just
get
a
him.
couple of drunks.
Yeah. And he goes, oh, so I'll get that guy standing on the street singing with. And I was like, well, hopefully I'm not singing as bad as I was out on the street. But yeah, that's how I met all those guys. But no, it was my first opportunity to actually play with them. And just beautiful, lovely people, and just a great band. So it's a real pleasure just to, it's a pleasure and an honor, a privilege to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
be up
yeah.
there.
So there'll be more of it in the future, I would think, because they're experiential sorts of things these days. And where you've done a lot in the past, like you guys, and you've had the accolades and all that, it's the experiences you probably chase these days rather than the grandeur. So, I would say,
Yeah.
and there'll be
And
plenty of
new,
opportunities.
yeah, I like new experiences, like something that I haven't tried before and learning from it and sort of building on it. And so, yeah, this has been a real success in so many ways, personally, but also, like, I think, the promoters are happy, they're selling out the shows
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
they're
So
killing it.
hopefully it continues on. If they ask me to come back next year, I'll definitely do it.
I was talking to Psycho Mike from Suicidal the other day, Suicidal Tendencies, and they're touring with Metallica, and they're throwing names like and Evanescence. So they're throwing names. He was saying, look, we're going to get Linkin Park out, but blowing Pantera, throwing names like you just go, waft, you get him something, you go, well, and he's just throwing them around. And he couldn't sit down for an interview. He had to walk around for the 30 minutes. So I've got the phone here, and he's in the park, and just the way he was. But he's probably the most conscious guy I've ever spoken to. He's exactly
Right.
like me in terms of that consciousness. So it's really interesting. I say that because a lot of these experiences that you'll have with what you're doing now, and probably some collaborations in the future, will be super rewarding, I would think, because
Mm.
they're sort of warming to the heart rather than just lining the pocket. Eventually
Yeah.
you work out that the pocket doesn't really mean anything because basically whether you hit, like I'll bet you, like most people say, those times in the combi with the hair flowing are probably the times you think about a lot more than you
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah.
because that was life. When you
That's
didn't
right.
have it, then you were just trying to work it out. All right.
Yeah, I've never been a real big breadhead. I like I've always sort of had a lot of I suppose just gratitude for just
Yeah.
like life and living and experience and people and relationships and things that I've just tried to tried to sort of always be mindful of what is important. I think like going through the whole COVID time. I mean, I don't like bring all that shit up again, but that was really good in the sense that sort of I think on a mass scale, everybody reprioritized what was important, and it was
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
became really obvious. And so yeah,
Plus, it was good for live performance because people tried to do it online and no one was interested, and it
yeah,
was perfect online, but they don't want that. They want the sweat, coming off the guitarist, while they're in the front of the pit.
yeah.
Jay must have been a challenging, and you probably learned from that as well, I presume. His part.
Yeah. That was really challenging, and I didn't think that we would continue on. We didn't. We sort of like just put it to the side. Um, but I feel that he's never far away.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think people die. I think,
Yeah,
they're just in a place that we don't understand. And if
yeah,
you open yourself up to that fear, I'd leave a spot for him on stage. I wouldn't,
yeah. He's always in my thoughts. He's always still a part of the band. It's amazing, and we've we talk about him and remember things that he's done when we're sort of like practicing or whatever, or on tour, and retell his stories and keep that memory alive.
yeah, yeah,
Um, at the time, it was an absolute shock and a tragedy, and like 42 years old,
yeah. It's a boy these days.
yeah. So yeah, but life goes on, and we keep that memory of Jay
And that's
alive.
what he would want. He'd want you together playing on stage too. He wouldn't want you doing anything else. Okay, having spoken about those legends that I spoke about before, if you could perform with any music artist, alive or dead, who would it be?
Mm,
You're just about to take the stage tonight, and you're looking forward to,
well, I'd have to say, I'd have to say Bowie,
of
even,
course.
even though it'd be pretty scary, but it would be amazing. Yeah,
I think,
Bowie, um, and John Lennon.
oh, yes, yes, and they're probably simple guys when you play with them. They didn't look like they had a whole heap of ego. Okay, you still have long-term aspirations? How old are you now? 32,
I'm
33?
54, man. I'm 54 years old. Well, long-term aspirations. Well, not really. Kinda. I mean, there's things I want to do, and I'm not sure how long they're going to take me to do. But yeah, like we were saying before, it's about just new experiences. Um, I want to write more. Like I want to write, like actually write words, like write a book or something. Um, and I want to release some more music. Yeah,
Good. Okay, how about some, you've been phase one and phase two. So you've got 35 years there with a break in between. So that's more experience. What's the advice and you've been through the sell a CD, try and make money out of streaming, which is ridiculous and impossible. I liked it when the majors were in trouble and almost going out of business. Now, obviously, they've sort of cornered the market. So you've
yeah.
been through all that sort of process. So what advice would you give to someone that's starting off?
Well, number one would be yourself, be authentic. That's number one. Then build a niche, build a network of people that are into what you do, small, and let it build naturally. And then just keep sort of exploring your own creative, um, you know, the pool and pushing it a little bit further each time. And
Yeah,
like I really like that Bowie quote, like the best work is when you're just like you can't quite touch the bottom.
yeah,
Um, so I think that's a really important thing to remember. And also stuff like fame, popularity, all that sort of stuff. It's fleeting. It's like happiness. It comes, it goes, and you got to sort of like really love what you do. And that's why being authentic is so important. If you're doing something just to have hits or whatever, you're sure you'll have a little while, but it'll be over. Also, make hay while the sun's shining. Like so while you're having that moment in the sun, make the most of it. Put some away.
I
That
think
would be my advice.
I think what you said at the start, I you know, selling is about getting an advertiser, getting a customer and making them an advertiser because basically followers will bring followers. So if you get the follower and that's the same as audience. And I think social media has fucked that up to some degree by giving someone a belief that, if you've got 100 million followers, that's where it's at. So you've got to get to 100 million or something or other. When really, a lot of the old timers have a couple of thousand followers and they're dyed in the wool, at every show, buy every record, and they make a good earn out of it. And so
Yeah,
make sure you've got, like you said, those dedicated followers. and I would say develop collaborators, trusted collaborators and mentors, so that your field extends. There might be
Yeah,
100,000 songs come out every day on Spotify, but it's a very small industry. And once you've got a name, everyone knows that name. So,
yeah, yeah.
get
I think
along.
collaborating's a great thing to do. Like, yeah, I had that little collaboration mid '90s with Cram from Spiderbait. We put out the Hot Rollers. That was a good thing to do. I wish I'd done more like collaboration. I'm only starting to now. I'm doing another record with this band at the moment called Arctic Lake, which is a sort of international band put together by a guy called Tony Rumble. He's got like Zia McCabe from Dandies on keys and
Yeah, yeah.
Ricky Mamie from Brian Jonestown Massacre on guitar, and I'm singing. So I've done 5 songs for that album, but it's great just like working with different people, and that's the that's the beauty of a creative process. You're bouncing off different human beings that are coming up with different things, and everyone's adding their own sort of
Well,
spirit.
I think the other thing about it too is most of the time, the people you're dealing with now that have been around for 20, 25, 30 years, they've also been through the ego process and they've learned what they needed to learn. And they're really not too interested in people with their head up their ass,
Yeah,
So when you come together to play music. You don't come together to work out who's going to be at the front and who's going to be
yeah,
at the side and who's going to be at the back. So
yeah.
publicity like this is something you sort of have to do, but it's not something you necessarily want to do all the time. But except if it's with me, because I'm just an old bastard that likes having a conversation. Half the time people are saying, "Why does that prick talk so much? I want to hear Richie talk." But it is what it is.
It's
All
good to have
right.
more of a conversation. I like it.
Yeah. Let's finish with some shortish questions. I'll do some favourites in a sec, but I've got a few just before that. This one most people don't answer, but what's the craziest thing you've ever done? But
Um,
most of them are touring, and they probably figure if they tell me that their visa will get revoked or something.
First thing that came into my mind was at the first big day out, I dived off the stage and cracked my head against another person. And many years later, like 20 years later, this guy comes up and goes, "Do you remember that big day out?" I went, "Yeah, when I smashed my head against someone." He goes, "Yeah, it was me." And he had a scar where he had stitches.
That's too good. Usually, if someone does tell me, someone told me the other day, they said, and it could have been Earthless, it could have been what's he from Earthless, uh, 30 years ago or 35 years ago in Sydney, they didn't have all those barriers on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and he jumped something or other, and he went up the top of the bridge, and he hung from the. He's telling me, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, that is just
Wow,
unbelievable!" And he's hanging from the top there, right at the top.
wow,
Something a mad artist would do. What's one topic you can talk about for hours?
music.
Of course, that's life.
Yeah.
What's the thing you like most about yourself? Your beard,
Um,
obviously, the Ned Kelly.
beard's coming along. My hat collection.
Aha, the hat. When did you start wearing a hat?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Vanity?
Hey?
Vanity or just,
I got this nice. It's an Akubra, and I just got into wearing it.
yeah, having seen your head, Richie, put the hat back on. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. All right, here we go. Finish off. This is it now. These can be all time or they can be today. It doesn't matter. Favorite album?
Stooges' first album.
What was that?
The Stooges' first
Oh,
album.
oh, yes. Great album. Favorite artist?
Bowie.
So you don't go back as me, as far as me. I'm 67. You're only 54. So
Yeah.
I go back when he was starting, and he was just everyone was looking at him like he was strange.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? What's taking place? He wasn't a star or anything like that. He was just coming out probably on Countdown or something or other. And, people were referring to him, and he had this lean look, and he had this makeup and Ziggy and all this sort of stuff, ground control.
Yeah.
And but certainly super duper star. Favorite movie? Another one gone too young. Bowie. Bowie was gone too.
Yeah, yeah. I just think I'd pick him just for his diversity and his career and his artistry. Like,
But he was a pretty conscious guy as well. He was a pretty
yeah,
sweet guy, like you say.
everything said, yeah,
And he had a right. He had a right to be a big head because he was everywhere he went. Someone was elevating him. So no, it was pretty cool.
yeah.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Sure, that's a hard one. I'm going to say Wizard of Oz.
Really? With Judy Garland?
Yeah, I love her, but also because it's just
I,
always was. When I was a kid, I used to love it. It was like just such an escape.
I've, I've got the same thing. I've got the same thing with The Sound of Music. I saw that in '65 when it came out. I was 7. I went with the family, and it was a big VistaVision thing, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah,
Black and white TV. But as I started to get more conscious in the last 15, 20 years, I've become more Buddhisty, more feeling oriented. And that love affair between, Maria and the captain is just, I think it always gets me every time. So I can understand some of those old movies sticking around, sticking in the craw. Favorite place to visit?
Africa.
Really?
Yeah,
On safari or anywhere?
yeah. Well, I went. I've been. I went on safari in South Africa in Kruger National Park. That was pretty amazing.
Wow.
But I like Zambia. It's pretty cool. Kenya.
Wow. Yeah, well, we've got a few of them out giving us a bit of an issue here in Melbourne these days, but that's all right. That's probably sounding a bit racist, actually. I didn't mean it that way. Favorite venue to play?
I'd say.
You've
You
played
know
it.
what? I really like it's small, but I really love it. The Crowbar in Sydney.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Still
like it's a
still very active. Still very active. Favorite food?
I like Japanese food.
Japanese.
Mm.
Favorite drink?
Um, I like a really nice glass of Shiraz.
Yeah. Nice Shiraz. Favorites are the Reds. Favorite person in history, apart from me.
In history, apart from you,
Well, that could be, some people say my dad, some people say my wife, some people say Mandela, everyone has someone that influences them in some way.
um, well, I don't know. Favorite person in history? Oh God, that's a hard one.
Well, they're all hard.
Yeah, I suppose I'm going to say. Oh man.
I love these pauses where people think it means they're actually
I'm
working.
going through all the people in history. I'd say.
We could be here for a while if
I'm
you go
going
through all the people in history.
right. Look, I'm going to say my dad because yeah, he is. Without him, I wouldn't be here. So yeah,
Still kicking?
yeah, still kicking. He's a grey nomad flying around, driving around the country.
Fantastic. What
Yeah.
is it? He's a what? Sorry, could you repeat that?
A grey nomad, that's what they call them, driving around the country. He's been driving around for like 8 months, I think now.
God bless him, eh? I think that's another thing that's a conscious bloody process is at our base where we are Stone Age, and if you just get grounded, that's all you need. And so if you get caught in Double Bay and the big house with the big chair, you're probably dead about 20 years earlier than you should be because really
Yeah,
there's nothing in comfort.
well,
It's
that's what they decided to do when they retired, was just like sell everything up and buy a caravan and take off. That's what
Yeah, God bless. That's fantastic. All right, and I know this last one because I've seen it. Favorite tattoo? Is it
they,
the arm? The favorite tattoo?
my favorite tattoo.
Yeah, is it the arm?
My favorite tattoo is my lightning bolt.
Really, lightning bolt. You've got a big. What's on the other arm? I saw the other arm.
That snake.
Ah, the
So,
snake.
so the snake and the lightning bolt, they actually are sisters and they join
Yes,
up. See?
yes. And how
So
did you?
there's a legend about the lightning snake, and it's also very It's very sort of symbolic of this area here. We have an escarpment that runs along the side of Wollongong. Escarpment here, ocean here, and there's a Aboriginal story where a red-bellied black snake lied down along the coastline here and then became the escarpment. Right, so that's that snake, and
Historically.
the lightning is just life and vitality. Yeah.
It's fantastic, Richie. Well, 30 minutes. First of all, let's just say before we go, because we're here for a reason, um, get yourself off to one of the last two, if I can get this up on time, one of the last two um, gigs you got going with celebrating Neil Young.
Yeah. Well, I think Adelaide, there's still a couple of tickets left. Not many, but just a couple. And that's Thursday night. Friday night in Melbourne sold out now, I think. So
Okay, so you can't get tickets. So just look out for Richie Tumbleweed. He's going to write a book. It's going to be, his favourite interviewers. I'll probably be prime in there. So no. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to have you back. I'm gonna start doing a podcast at some stage, which is going to be around a bit of consciousness, because I want
yeah,
to talk to people for longer about what they feel, not so
yeah,
much what they think. And
yeah,
a lot of what we do in life is just comes from thought, and they
yeah.
don't really connect. Just like the Oz movie, it's a feeling experience. It's not something that you say, well, they had great, this and that and all this sort of stuff. It's something that you felt at the time and it sort of carried with you. And in my eyes, that's where life lives. Life lives in that feeling. And if you can connect with that, that's the collaboration with everything. Because
Mm,
you can either use your Atari, which most people use and get fucked up, or you can use the source. But you've got to work out how to get the source. And I think that everything lives in there, even Jay and all that sort of stuff. It all lives in the wider place.
mm.
So don't get too caught up in anything, and even music creation. It's all a part of drawing from everything that's ever
You're an
existed,
antenna. You're an antenna, like picking
letting
it
it
up.
come through, letting it come
Yeah,
through. And so if you're
yeah.
depressed or anything like that, you've got to be, because that's a part of who you are at the time. So
Mm.
collaborate with it. Don't try and push it off or think you're faulty or something like that.
I subscribe to that 100%. Yeah. So when you're doing that podcast, give us a
Well,
call. We'll have a good yak about it.
I'll come up. We'll sit across from each other and I'll put up a camera and I'll get you crying in 12 minutes, 12 and a half minutes,
All
bawling.
right. Challenge accepted.
I'm on. I'm on. I'm on. Thanks, Richie. Thanks very much for your time, man. I really
No
appreciate it.
worries, man.
And have a
No
great
worries.
have a great couple of digs and enjoy the collaboration.
Thank you.
Join
Catch
me,
you soon.
brother. Take care.
See you. Bye.
Bye.